For colleagues Paul Pearce-Kelly and Dave Clarke, working for London Zoo is more than a day job.
So we've been working together for 40 years. A long time. Without Dave, we couldn't have done half as much as we've been able to achieve.
Paul is the most passionate person you could meet. He's incredible. He's a god in the invertebrate world.
They've devoted their careers to species that most of us barely notice.
The most fascinating animals are the invertebrates. There's no doubt of that. You can have a safari in your garden.
They're not quite as demanding as keeping rhinos, for instance, but they give us much back.
Now, after decades of work, they want to bring one remarkable group of animals back from the brink.
When we started doing this, we weren't sure that it was going to work. We can make a difference, and we can redress that balance where we caused the problems in the first place.
They're bigger than themselves, but in themselves as well, they are more than important to keep on the earth.
From our own back gardens to the rainforests of the tropics, snails are a vital part of the global ecosystem, with more than 60,000 known species. The islands of French Polynesia in the South Pacific were once home to 150 varieties. These Partula snails evolved and diversified to fill the island's many mountains and valleys, recycling dead leaves, maintaining healthy forests, and providing food for other animals. Then, in the space of a few short years, they vanished. Today, Partula snails can still be found in zoos, including here in London, where they're cared for by Dave Clarke.
When we started doing this, we weren't sure that it was going to work. Me and my colleagues here at the zoo have been treating these snails for decades now, and many of the species, because they've been extinct in the wild, are relying on that captive breeding. Me and a colleague from Edinburgh Zoo collected the last 9 known individuals of that species. All the populations that exist are derived from those 9 snails.
Dave and his snails are preparing for an extraordinary 10,000-mile journey.
So what we're doing now is marking the snails. We give them a blob of UV reflectant paint so that we can find them more easily when we're looking for them back in Polynesia. So these are multiple generation captive bred, and these ones get to go back.
Wrapping them in dry tissue paper encourages them to hibernate and conserve moisture. It's part of a long-term international effort to restore the Partulas to their native home and prove that reintroduction can work. Dave is joining his ZSL colleague Paul Pearce-Kelly in the field, along with conservationists from zoos across the world.
So a pot like this represents an amazing amount of effort. We prepared these last night, and there's a beautiful load of marked Partula affinis which are ready to be released. There's nothing better than rearing animals, threatened animals in the zoos, and then being able to put them back in the wild where they should be in the first place.
The pots are tied above the ground to help protect them from predators.
Big thing is we want them to find each other. And a little snail like this in a very complex environment, it's important that there's enough of them to be able to establish. And they're already starting to make a break for it, which is fantastic. That's one of the most satisfying things I think I ever get to see. Look at you, little one.
But this isn't the first time Paul and Dave have released these snails back into their forest home. They've been bringing Partulas here for nearly a decade. And today, Paul is looking for traces of past reintroductions.
This is an old shell of one of our Partula species. And this is what we're looking for, but living, and also from our reintroduction populations.
To find a living Partula snail that's been born in the wild would prove that what Paul and Dave have done is working.
In all the world, only 13 species, including plants which are extinct in the wild, have ever been successfully re-established.
With several thousand snails to release across 4 islands, it isn't long before the team are on the move. And the snails are getting comfortable in their new home.
And we've got no doubt of the vigour of the snails. That is not something we're worried about.
People think that snails don't move very fast. Take your eye off them and they're away.
Let me see.
We can see the dispersal rather than just sitting here and waiting. And it does look quite entertaining as well.
Most of the Partulas go up. Well, that's a big thing in their favour because the predators are down on the ground. The trouble is they go up so much that then you don't know what's going on.
Scattered across the forest floor are clues to the disappearance of the Partula snails.
So this is where it began, really. The giant land snail, Lissacatina fullica, being introduced in the 1960s. They really became a massive problem around agricultural areas, but it was because of the agricultural issue that the biological control was introduced.
To control the booming population of giant land snails, a predator was introduced, the rosy wolf snail from Florida. 5 times the size of the defenseless Partulas, it soon devastated populations. But for Dave, this invasive species is no villain.
And it's not his fault. At the end of the day, he didn't choose to come here. This is the way it is. There are predators here. It's having them at a sustainable level where we can still re-establish the Polynesian tree snails. So let's hope when we do a proper search within the forest just here that we come up with some animals.
But as the team visit more and more release sites, the damage from introduced predators is becoming clear.
We have got the 4 animals from last year's release, but there's also a blue one, which is from 2 years ago. So it's a shame, but we'll keep looking because it's the same old thing with Partula. You know, we don't know. There could still be hundreds of them just above our heads, and they're just so difficult to see.
It's a discouraging sign. But Paul Pearce-Kelly is holding out hope.
I think it's important to always remind yourself you're in the middle of the reintroduction effort. It's not realistic to think you'll come out and everything will be verdant and you'll have massive populations. That's not the way it works.
For Paul and Dave, the project is about more than releasing snails.
We've got lots of memories from working here way back in 1994. Dave's great, so really, really dedicated, puts up with a lot of uncomfortable conditions, etc. Tremendous experience, which he shares with us.
Yeah, it's been a long time as well, you know, over 20 years since we've worked out here. And yeah, no, it's lovely. Paul has probably more than anyone on the planet pushed the conservation of invertebrates. He's just done so much. He does it because of his genuine just passion for these animals and the work that he does.
Paul's dedication hasn't gone unnoticed. He's been honoured with a European Association of Zoos and Aquariums Lifetime Achievement Award at their annual conference.
The conference is taking place this coming weekend. Paul's out in Polynesia, so he can't accept the award in person. But we're sending a nice video of him getting it in the field, where he's doing the work which gained him that award. So it's worked out really nicely. We are going to surprise Paul with an award. Because Paul, I would like to pass on to you the EASA Lifetime Achievement Award.
Really? Oh.
On behalf of EASA.
Oh my goodness, right.
Because,
thank you very much.
And this is in recognition of your amazing work over all these years in support of EASA and zoos globally?
Oh, well, very surprisingly, the wonderful colleagues in the European Zoo Association have given me a much appreciated award for doing stuff over a long time. I just thank you for all our wonderful colleagues across the European zoo community and internationally beyond that, our colleagues in the USA and our wonderful colleagues within the oh, and Dave Clarke. That's a lovely guy.
I've had the privilege of working with Paul over all these years, and he is a phenomenal force of nature, and he deserves every award that he gets.
It isn't the only recognition the team are getting. Partula snails may have disappeared from large parts of French Polynesia, but they haven't been forgotten. Their shells were once an important part of local culture. On the island of Moorea, a new project has been launched to reconnect local people to the Partula snails. And unbeknown to Paul and Dave, they're the guest of honour at the opening ceremony.
So here's a beautiful reserve that the community's built here.
The new reserve will provide the snails with a safe haven from predators and a place where people can visit them.
1, 2, 3, yay!
It shows how there can be that massive support for animals that otherwise people might think are not important. It is important.
It's not the only help the team are getting, as people offer support and land where snails can be released.
If I was a partula, I'd be quite happy to be here.
It's so cute.
They are cute. They are cute. We love them. They're fascinating, of course. They have their own sort of fascinating interests and traits. They're just fantastic. They keep on giving.
With the last of the snails released, Paul and Dave have returned to check in on the new arrivals. And for one last look for any wild-born partula.
So this is brilliant, isn't it, Paul? And they've spread out fantastically.
That's great. Very
nice.
Very nice. And the markings are really working very well. Really helps you to monitor them. Any conservation effort is complex, and seeing the results always takes time.
We're in the situation where they were extirpated. There were none left. So to get back to that back to those normal numbers is going to take a long time.
Yeah.
Look, that's a newborn baby Partula varia. So that's been born by one of the released adults as they came out. And that's very cute. So that bodes well for the future. It's one of the other species.
The team are about to leave when their colleague Teho makes a discovery.
Oh, look at that, Paul.
Baby.
Yeah. Wild baby. So we've got an unmarked juvenile. It's a small juvenile, but it's not a newborn. That's a proper wild animal.
That's a very, very valuable discovery.
And I just happened to find a little shell. I was like, oh, guys, is it the Partula? So Justin went by and confirmed that it was one, juvenile, unmarked. So happy finding.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. To us.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the first evidence of this species breeding in the wild since the 1990s when they became extinct.
We're too pleased to be able to talk at the moment. Brilliant.
Thanks.
That's a very good last day.
There's some adults out there that produce that, not the ones we released yesterday. So they're doing the job. Hopefully, well done.
When you're here on the ground, it really fires you up to go back to the zoo and breed as many partulas as we possibly can to keep this conservation effort going. So they're bigger than themselves, but in themselves as well, they are more than important to keep on the earth.
Paradise lost was one of the descriptions of what happened with the loss of all the native Polynesian tree snails. But maybe we're hoping to re-establish that paradise by putting them back. So now I'm looking forward to getting back to my snails and telling them, even though they're not going to listen, that maybe one day they'll come back where they belong.